All right, welcome back, everybody. We're at another BRStv live Q&A. We got Josh and Brian here today, and we're here to answer any of your questions about, well,
just
life,
about anything,
life, whatever you want to ask. But let's try to focus on reef aquariums, saltwater tanks, any of that kind of stuff. So, Josh, this is actually your first one of these.
Actually, yeah, not my first live stream. I always sit in the back right over there, picking winners for giveaways. But
right.
They finally let me out of my corner.
Right. Okay. So this is Josh's first Q&A live stream. So ask lots of questions and try to fool him. Or if you just, ask him some personal information, hobbies, loves, this, that kind of thing. Go ahead. Ask away. But
do my very best.
But yeah. So we're gonna try to go through as many of these as we can. So just if you got questions or have anything you need some advice on, throw that in the comments and we'll get to them as we can. We're going to try to rapid fire through some of these and see where we get. All right, so
solid. Ready when you are,
started.
Man.
Perfect.
Kick it off.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead. We've got a few questions from last time, so we'll start there. I got Karate Chick 1408 asked during the last live feed. We weren't able to get to it. My alkalinity has been very low. Says it's under 5.5. Corals don't seem to be affected by it, so I didn't realize it was that low. So how slowly do I raise it if my goal is around 8.5? So I'll start on this one, but the reason you don't see your corals aren't affected by it is because you're probably not, right? It's not going to hurt the corals typically if the alkalinity is low.
Yeah, if they're used to it, they're used to it.
Yeah, it's not going to bother them. What you're not going to see is that growth rate that you might want out of them, right? So at that low alkalinity, you're probably not getting the pH stability that you want, so you're probably not seeing growth like you might like. But you could still have nice polyp extension, really nice looking corals. You're just not going to get them to that next level. So what tips do you have for raising the alkalinity then?
1 to 1.5 DKH per day, no
day.
more.
Per day. Yeah.
That's like the max you can possibly do.
Yeah.
Go any faster than that, you're definitely going to stress the corals out and probably have a deleterious effect.
Yeah, I think with anything in the hobby, it's just like anything else, right? So it all takes time. Everything in this hobby is a slow process. If you try to speed it up, you're going to screw something up. So just take your time with it. Try to raise it one at a time, 1 point at a time. And see where you get. But
low and slow, man.
Low and slow. I like it. Just like I like my barbecue.
Absolutely.
That's great. Kindred spirits up here, so I love it. Okay. What we got here? Kalani, this is an interesting one. We talked about this. So we're going to go ahead and answer. Kalani King, question. I put trace elements with reef chili and mysis on a zinnia, and it shriveled up. Any advice? I guess my first advice would probably be not to do that again. Just, a little bit.
It could be any number of things that are happening there. Like, honestly, what it sounds like to me is, mysis is pretty chunky food. I could totally see that as kind of just a response from having something touch the coral and it shrunk back in on itself.
Right. Now, if it stayed shriveled up, if it just retracted, that's because something hit it or you sprayed something on it and it was like, and it tucked in.
Yeah.
Zinnia is not one of those ones that need direct feeding really, and
I probably wouldn't
large
do that
particles,
myself.
stuff like that. You don't need to worry about that. So just don't bother with that. It's going to be fine collecting stuff out of the water.
Yeah, and if you are going to do something like reef chili, which I would recommend for just about anybody, just broadcast feed it into the tank itself. You don't need to do any of the direct feeding.
So
like
you may have just overwhelmed it. Zinnia's, it just doesn't need that much work and attention. So you may have just overwhelmed it. Just leave it alone for a while. Hopefully it'll bounce back for you. All right, let's move down here. We've got some from today coming in. Great, this looks great. All right, so Dylan Tinbrink. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, sorry, Dylan. I recently purchased a fully set up tank, 120 gallon 4x2. It came with a trigger sump with protein skimmer, carbon reactor, and a tuna H80 light. Confused where I should be putting all these things. Any advice? Go ahead, Josh.
Well, if he's talking about where to place the tank itself, just the whole system itself.
Yeah, wherever you'd like, wherever it'll work.
Wherever's going to be best for you,
wherever you
sit
find
and enjoy it.
Aesthetically pleasing. But no, so the sump and the protein skimmer and all that, that's obviously going to go below the tank somewhere. Now, if you're going to use a stand, like if this came with a custom stand and all that, it's all going to go inside of there, right? Most likely.
Yeah, this is all, from what he's got here, it's all sump equipment. So protein skimmer is going to go in the sump. Carbon reactor is going to go somewhere in that same area.
Down in the stand somewhere.
H80
like
sounds like that trigger sump. Well, it's a trigger sump, so it definitely has a refugium section. So that would be hanging over that.
Yep. So the light's probably for the refugium section of the sump. protein skimmer also goes in the sump, and there you go. But all that's going to go down underneath the tank somewhere, or however you want to set it up. So there you go.
And it looks like he actually had another question. It says it also came with a Radeon XR30 Pro and an AI Hydra 64 HD. Is it okay to run 2 different light brands on this tank?
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, it's fine. You may get a little bit of an aesthetic difference between the two. So, but I mean, if you can dial them in, if it doesn't bother you, then it's fine. It's not going to bother the coral or anything else in there. So,
I think I think you hit on it perfectly there. The spectrum is going to be probably a little bit different.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to have the 2 different sides of the tank are going to be just look a little bit different from each other. But
yeah.
I mean, as long as the par's fine and they're running, then
I mean,
shouldn't be any problem.
Yeah, if you're somebody that really likes the clean aesthetic to your aquarium and you like everything to look perfect, may not be for you having 2 different lights up there. If you're more of a MacGyver or what I would call like a hillbilly reefer, and you just duct tape and baling wire everything together, then hey, go. It doesn't even matter. You can have whatever you want over that thing. So, yeah, it's really just up to you. But they'll work perfectly fine. All right, Reef Dude. My torches have gone 2 days now with short tentacles but extended flesh. Changes to the tank, switch to bolus lighting. Fast 10-minute ramp up for 10 hours, 120% light, and then ramp the lights down to 70% using the BRS hybrid balling method. Alkalinity shotgun, 30 minutes before photo period. Calcium and mag with trace, 12 hours later. So your torches have gone 2 days now with short tentacles, but extended flesh.
I feel like if anything, this might be a lighting issue. I mean, if those polyps are shrunken in, that's what I would definitely want to look at par. I would also want to know kind of what the parameters are of the tank, period. I mean, we're not sure what alkalinity, calcium, phosphate, nitrate. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can stress out a coral.
Yeah, because it could also be I don't necessarily know what alkalinity shotgun means, but it could also be flow related, things like that. So it could be getting just a little bit too much flow, and so those tentacles are backing out a little bit, but it's still trying to stay expanded, or vice versa. It's just not really getting anything. Usually, you see plenty of extension with that, though. So yeah, if you got some more information, maybe throw it in there for us, Reef, and we'll go from there.
Happy to go back through that.
Yep. All right, Jerry Pileman. How soon after the cycle can you start your refugium? And I was referring to the drain pipes in reference to the weir. How far below for each one? Oh, that was an earlier question from an earlier Q&A that we had. So I was referring to the drain pipes in reference to the weir, how far below for each one. Again, it really just kind of depends.
So is he talking about maybe the drain box? He's talking about like a bean animal or style drain?
Yeah, so where should that drain pipe be below the weirs in your overflow?
Well, I would make, honestly, like my primary drain, I would not have a riser on that whatsoever. I would I wouldn't even put a strainer on it. I would just have straight bulkhead down into your plumbing, down to the sump. For any of the emergency drains, I would have those pretty close to the bottom of the weir.
Yeah. So you just want to make sure that the primary drain, it doesn't really matter. The secondary, just in case things are slowing down and you're not getting the flow, it's an insurance policy. So it can be pretty close to the top. And that's a real quick sign to you too. If you look back there and there's water building up in the overflow, then you know that something's wrong. So.
Absolutely. And he also had his question about when he can start his refugium after the cycle.
Yeah, so after the cycle, I mean, if you've gone through your cycle and really beforehand, I mean, there's lots of things you can do to your refugium even before your cycle's over. You can get, whatever you're going to put in there, if you're going to put some like a miracle mud or you're going to live sand, live rock, whatever you're going to put in there, if you're going to do any of that stuff. Now, if you're just doing a refugium with like a ball of Kato in there or something, probably not much until after you get through the cycle and you start actually having like a regular, nutrient influx. But
yeah, I would definitely wait until you have something to actually feed the macroalgae with.
Yeah, there's just no point.
As soon as you get fish in there and you're feeding on a regular basis.
Yeah, but if you're doing, I mean, like I say, if you're just doing a Kato ball or something like that, or you're just doing some macroalgae, then give it a little bit of time until there's actually regular nutrient coming into the aquarium. If not, if you're going to have, what I would call like a full refugium, right? With like maybe some sand or rock or anything like that in it. I'd do that, and maybe some, again, invert some.
I would
pods,
definitely,
so I throw them in there now.
if you're doing something like that, I would definitely think about just adding an influx of pods.
Yeah.
As soon as you add any miracle mud, rock, sand,
throw your
anything like
pods in
that,
there.
as long as there's a habitat down there for them.
Yeah,
I would go ahead and
we've
have those
answered
right
that
away.
question a few times, right?
Yeah.
It's like, when do we put pods in? Just whenever you want. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, cool. Okay.
I can take the next one here.
Go for it, go for it.
Fire one off at you. So Shane, DJ Respin. What's the best thing to do when it comes to getting rid of Aperture? Would it be glove hand manual removal, or is there a decent chemical to help out?
Yeah, don't go trying to rip them apart. You're going to regret that.
Definitely don't. You'll have a population explosion in no time.
Yeah, you won't like it. They'll love it. They'll think it's great. They're like, oh yeah, go for it. Tear me in pieces, because they'll just grow everywhere. So don't do that. Manual removal is never really a great idea. So there is some chemical warfare out there. I've used lots of different things in the past, even like boiling water. Like I'll boil RO water and use like a syringe. There are lots of products out there that you can use. I don't even remember what it's called. You probably know better than I do.
There's only one that I would personally ever use, and I've used the heck out of it here at the office, and that's Frank's.
Frank's.
Aperture.
I thought you meant like the hot sauce.
Well, I like that too.
Okay.
But
Frank's, what is it?
Frank's Aperture.
Aperture.
Yeah, it's kind of a, I would almost describe it as almost like a calc paste.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep.
And it's really easy to work with. You get it into a syringe, and unlike other things out there where you actually have to puncture the Aperture and further risk spreading it around your tank, you just cover the dang thing up.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is I get a pipette or a turkey baster and just kind of blow some water right at the Aperture to get it to kind of shrivel up. And once it's kind of pulled into itself, just cover it right up.
Seal it off.
And if you want to have even more success with that, once it's covered up, I like to put a little bit of coral putty on top of it just to make sure it
Seal
stays
that
there.
hole and you ain't getting
Seal
back
it
out
up.
of there, right?
He's going to burn away and you're not going to see it again.
Nice. Now there's
Love that
also,
stuff.
in the past I've done a lot of biological solutions as well. You could always go with Bergia, which will work on it for a while, but that's one of those things that, it's going to take them a while to work across your tank, but they will. I mean, you'll see.
They will eventually.
Especially if you don't have like a massive infestation, you will eventually see them gaining ground on it.
Now, if you're doing that, though, you also have to take in a whole bunch of other components. Like if you have any kind of wrasses in your tank, they will absolutely demolish your very expensive Bergia.
Yeah, they're going to eat them.
You also have to worry about flow. If you're running a high flow SPS tank, Bergia hate flow. You will never see another one ever again.
Well, you'll see them blowing around in the water column, but then
As the fish
disappearing
eat
into
them.
your overflow, or something eats them. Yeah. So Bergia are nice in some cases. They are very effective because that is all they eat. So, but there are other things out there, like Josh said, that'll eat them. Peppermint shrimp can do it. They're not really the best at it. What I've found is if I've got a small infestation and peppermint shrimp are around, I usually have to damage the Aperture first, and then they're like, oh, that looks interesting, and then they'll come and eat it.
Yeah, I mean, they're scavengers, so they're going to go after anything dead or dying.
Yeah, so they'll go for it. Or you can get yourself an Aperture eating filefish.
We have been very, very lucky with those.
Yeah.
I've always heard them as kind of on that hit or miss side of things, but every single one we have gotten into the office here just absolutely annihilates them.
Yeah.
That combined with Frank's,
Yeah.
to me, that's bulletproof.
Yeah, So if it's a small, or you got a few of them popping up, something like the chemical like Frank's is a great option. If you've got a massive outbreak, you're probably going to have to go a different route and get into a little bit of biological and possibly chemical warfare. I know I had a tank once that I finally just said, forget about it. I had so many Aperture in there and I couldn't get rid of them. I literally put 30 peppermint shrimp in there and I stopped feeding the tank. And in like 2 weeks, I had no Aperture. I had a bunch of peppermint shrimp, but I had no Aperture, which is what I was going for. So it worked out great. All
right. Well, thanks for the question.
Thanks, DJ. All right. So Frontier Wildlife Solutions, favorite supplemental light bars to add with Kessels to help reduce some shading. Go ahead. Because I got one in mind, but
I'm going to have to say Blade.
yeah, that's what I was going to say, the blades. I mean, honestly, they're sleek, they're easy, they're just, yeah.
On top of that, Kessel's like my personal favorite light.
Right.
I love that light.
And that's a great combo, blade with a Kessel, that's a great combo.
Nice point source light with the spread and functionality. Hands down one of my favorites. We did that on a couple tanks here in the studio a while back, and I had jury rigged together some insane mount using Kessel A-series mounting arms and a combination of, I think it was the AI Blade hanging kits. So it just looked cool.
Yeah.
I was very proud of it,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. But that's what I would go with, is definitely blades for the
Yeah,
Kessels.
blades are great, and they're fairly cost effective. They're really not that bad as far as price goes compared to other LED strips out there and things like that. So I'd go with that.
And based off of
great
whatever aesthetic you want to go with, whether you want to go like the Coral Grow or the Coral Glow,
Yep.
have it more of
Or one of each.
Yeah,
Put one on each side.
that's what I would personally
Coral
do.
Grow,
Make it
Coral Glow.
nice and even spread spectrum. Like that combo.
Yeah, so there you go. There's our reference. Okay, we got Jetia Shorter. What starfish is safe for reef tanks, or just for the reef? So
I don't have an answer for this.
yeah,
I've never kept a starfish.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I do, yeah. So the easiest ones are like Linkias. So red and blue Linkia starfish are going to be safe for your reef. I used to have massive blue Linkia in one of my old
I
reef
always heard
tanks,
those
and
were really hard to take care of.
they can be difficult, right? So if you're new and you've got a younger tank, I'd say anything less than like a year and a half, and you've maybe on and off with success with different creatures in there, don't go getting yourself a Linkia starfish. They're kind of pricey anyway, but if you've got a nice mature reef tank, a Linkia is a really cool addition because they're one of the blue ones are just great. They're really bright colored.
Gorgeous,
and,
yeah.
I've had a lot of success keeping them in the past. I did have one once that got ripped apart somehow, no idea, but then I ended up having like 3. So because it was great, I had this one leg that was like cruising around on the glass all the time, and it just had 4 little tiny ones. It was like
Little nubbins.
yeah, so it was really cool. So Linky is a good one. Of course, most of the ophiuroids, so most of your like brittle stars, serpent stars are going to be fine. There are a few out there that are not like the big green ones.
I suppose if you have a sand bed, sand sifting stars, right?
Yeah, sand sifting stars are okay if you've got a nice sand bed. Of course, if you've got a fine sand bed, if it's really coarse, then that's not going to work out for you. But yeah, so there's a few options for you, and probably the easiest one. Other than that, Fromia stars are okay. Past that, man, I just wouldn't trust them because they'll eat a lot of different stuff. So
Okay, we're all learning something new today.
there you go. Cool. All right, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, Chris Johnson, what are copepods? And also, when setting up the AI HD Reef 16, how do you know which spectrum to utilize for premium growth?
You answer the second part of that. How about that? Do you know the AI HD Reef?
What I would tell them to do is, this would have been a couple years back. We actually did a video on, we had a BRS recommended spectrum. And for the life of me, off the top of my head, I cannot remember
the name of that.
what the settings were on that or the name of the video.
Yeah.
But I know we have all of that stuff up online. So I would definitely take a look. I would search our YouTube channel for AI Prime, and you will definitely find it.
Is there, let me ask you this, based off of like what you know of that video, was there ever like a direct correlation between, I guess, blue light and coral growth, or opposite?
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be more on the blue spectrum with the big peak in the middle. For max coral growth, there's going to be a big peak over on the blue spectrum.
Okay.
Can't remember exactly what the nanometers were. That was never really my thing, unfortunately.
Sure, okay, fair enough.
I just know that it worked.
All right, and I'm not familiar with the AI HD Reef 16, so I apologize. But what are copepods? So copepods are just going to be very small crustaceans, lots of different kinds of them out there. There are amphipods, copepods, the whole bit, but they're just small crustaceans that are going to be living inside of your aquarium, going around feeding on algae, detritus, whatever it might be. So look around at the glass, look around on the rocks, the sand at night, especially at night. You can see them really easily, but you'll see them down in the corners of the aquarium.
Always see them around on the fronts of the tanks around here. When I come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, you see them crawling around. Easily one of the best parts of your cleanup crew.
Oh yeah, and
hands down.
Yeah, and a lot of them are really small and they're not really easy to see. They'll just look like little dots on your glass. But if you look for like Gomeris shrimp, which are little tiny, they look like little scuds. Scud shrimp, right? Or almost like the pill bugs, right? So those are really great to have around, and they'll be all over your tank as well. So if you add them in there, so those are copepods.
All right. You want to take the next one?
Sure. Paco, hi. I can't lower the phosphates in any way. They are always at 0.3. I try to use a skimmer set very wet, a reactor with anti-phosphate resins. and ATS, and 20% water changes every 10 days help. So if you're having all these problems, I would probably check your source water. If you're doing all of those things and you're still getting those high phosphates, and you can jump in with recommendations too, but the first thing I would do is if every 10 days you're doing 20% water change, you're still having those high phosphates, one, really take a hard look at your feeding regimen. Make sure you're not just going nuts on it, because maybe you just need to dial back and perhaps try not feeding for a couple days and see if something happens. I mean, you don't usually want to do that, but it might, depending on what you have in your aquarium. If you don't have a lot of high demand fish, you could be okay. Try that, but really I would probably take a hard look at your source water, because if you're using, even if you've got RO, it may not be pulling out all of those phosphates, so really take a good look at that.
So what I was going to suggest was also feeding, because I mean, you put less in, there's going to be less there.
Right.
Right? So I would definitely give that a shot, and I would also maybe take a look at the test kit itself. Whether it's a Hannah checker or any one of the titration ones. I mean, these things, the reagents do have expiration dates.
Yep.
If it's something that's battery powered like a Hannah checker, if the battery starts getting low, it will definitely start throwing out some spurious readings.
Yeah.
So I would definitely take a look at those. Or, I mean, we actually were talking about this earlier today when you were shooting some video on the other side of the studio. We were talking about if you are doing some tests and you're getting some really weird readings, if you got a local fish store in the area that also does water tests, check the efficacy of your test by taking a water sample.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing to do, is just check your sanity. Go to take your water sample to the local fish store and have them test it to make sure. But yeah, make sure all your test kits are calibrated. Like if you're using a Hannah checker, make sure that thing's calibrated, all that. So just make sure you're keeping up on all that. But yeah, check your sanity. Maybe they're not high, and your test is just off.
Yeah, because I mean that's a lot of nutrient export.
It sure is. Yeah, so, yeah, you're doing everything right to get rid of it. It just sounds like it's sticking around for some reason. So again, either something's off, or maybe you're putting it in there some way you didn't know. So check your source water. There may be phosphates in that. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think I'm up next.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So we got Dylan Tenbrinky. I apologize if I said that wrong.
Thanks for tuning in. Oh, by the way, if you're just tuning in, let's just
take a break.
Just tuning in. We're doing a little Q&A today, live Q&A. So Josh, Brian here, you guys can send in your questions and we'll try to get to them. And if not, we'll try to get to them the next time. But forward your questions, throw them down in the comments and we'll get to them.
Absolutely. All right, so Dylan says, I mean the carbon reactor and protein skimmer in the same box is okay. What order do I put them in? Refugium first or skimmer and carbon first? I think he may have been one of the ones we answered earlier.
Yep, gotcha. Good. No, thanks for clarifying, Dylan. So yeah, you can put carbon reactor and the protein skimmer in the same box. It's fine, or have those coming in and out of the same box. It doesn't really matter. As far as refugium and protein skimmer goes, I'm also not sure it matters. But I usually run protein skimmer first, and then the...
Okay, so I'm a little different than you.
Okay.
Like ultimately, I don't think it really matters. I would definitely keep the carbon reactor in wherever you do the protein skimmer, because you don't want macroalgae getting sucked up into the pump that you're feeding your reactor with. Myself personally, I always like doing the refugium before the protein skimmer though. And I don't know if this is actually true or not, but I feel like it allows, I want as much of my nutrient export to be done through the refugium.
Biologically.
Just biologically, and I want to have my macroalgae have the first whack at any nutrients that are dissolved in the water.
Yeah, fair.
So I don't know if that's, there's anything necessarily to that. It's my personal preference.
Yeah, there's some
I feel
logic
like it works
there.
for me.
There's some logic there, and the assumption would be like, hey, that we've got 100% of efficacy on like your protein skimmer, so it's pulling out everything that goes past it, which is probably not the case, and things like. But that would be an interesting thing to look into. So, all right,
you're up, man.
Okay, I'm gonna move down. I saw this one here, so this is an interesting. So down here, the one blue whistler just added copepods to his tank, and how long should I wait until I do a water change? You don't really have to wait at all. It's fine. I mean, I would. If you have a sand bed and you've just added them in there, and if during your water changes, if you're a big sand bed, siphoner and you clean all that stuff out, I would probably just skip that for this first one. Let them sort of become a little more prolific, let them breed and get all in there and kind of do their thing. But or just do part of it or something. So that's about it.
I would say I would probably give it a week. Like if you're doing weekly water changes, I would just skip a week.
Yeah, it's not gonna hurt anything.
If it's really concerning you. Personally, I probably wouldn't worry about it.
No, they're going to get down into they're going to get down into the rocks and crevices and things like that. And as soon as you get close to them, they're going to be like and run and
they're going to find all the little holes in your live rock, and they're going to find a safe place. So even if you siphon out some of them, there's still going to be plenty left to establish a population.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
All right, let's see. John Campbell. I'm cycling with dry rock and was wondering how soon after the cycle should I add my cleanup crew and first fish, and which to add first. Thanks.
No, so cycling dry rock and wondering how soon after the cycle should add clean. So you can actually add a lot of the cleanup crew before the cycle's done. But for me personally, and it depends on how you're cycling. Are you just cycling dry rock with like a microbacter or something like that? Like what's your process? But for the most part, if you've got some food you're feeding in there, you can throw a lot of the cleanup crew in there. You know, things like hermit crabs, copepods, those can all go in there pretty early on because they'll just start feeding off anything that you're throwing in there, and they'll also produce waste and stuff like that. I wouldn't throw in snails and all that yet because there's nothing for them to eat. But as far as fish goes, I'm also a big proponent of waiting until well after your cycle before adding any fish to your tank. So what that time limit is.
I mean, honestly, for myself, as soon as I've got zero ammonia, I would start putting fish in, like a proper cleanup crew in.
Sure. I think for me, it's just I look at the hobby, I look at everything that I do in my aquariums as like sort of a long game, you know. So it's not because I want to enjoy this for years. I don't want to enjoy it just for like 6 months. So like I'm very much like give it a month, you know, kind of guy. And as we know, like the more as your aquarium matures, you see these nice aquariums out there. They've been going for like 4 or 5 years. They're just they're just bulletproof.
Absolutely.
Right? So that age, you know, that comes with some of the age and some of that maturity in that biological system. So, you know, don't be too hasty in adding some things in there. But I mean, once you're at zero ammonia, technically you can add fish to it. So there you go. All right. I'm going to go up here. Michael Williams, cycling macro rock in a tub in the garage with microbacter, cycle and start. Ammonia is not going down, but nitrite is finally starting to register after 3 weeks, assuming it's cycling just slowly. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's nothing in there. I mean, I assume it's since you're cycling in a tub in your garage, I assume it's not like a 5-gallon bucket. It sounds like it's probably a big tub because you're doing something big. I mean, you've just got a lot of pore space there and all that rock. You've got a lot of surface area to colonize with these bacteria and everything. So your cycle's just going to take a while.
Yeah. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mileage may vary. I like that. So you can help it out. I mean, honestly, the best thing you can do, which is if you know somebody that has a reef tank or you've got a local fish store and they've got maybe some good live rock already going, get a piece of that and toss it in there. Your cycle will speed up tremendously.
I would agree with that. I think the only caveat to that is making sure that what you're putting in from someone else's tank is actually clean.
Well, yeah, that's the part of it, right? That's why I would say someplace that you trust, right? So, but yeah, I mean, if you've got a good, reliable source that you don't think you're going to get anything nasty from, then cycle it that way. I mean, it'll speed things up a lot if that's what you're trying to go for. But yeah, I mean, the more you're trying to cycle, it could just take longer.
Let's see what else we've got.
All right. Seraph 788, can you use dechlorinated tap water with fish only?
You know what, I would say that's probably the only situation that I would use tap water.
Yeah, and
wouldn't use it for anything that's even got soft coral in it. I would go straight RODI.
Well, and it really just depends. I think if it's just, because again, I think that we did some information, we put out some information a while back on this as well, but source water can vary so much. So when you mix that source water, even if it's dechlorinated tap water, you mix that with salt and, because of the minerals that might be in that water, whatever else could be in there that you don't necessarily know about. It could, your DKH starting out, your alkalinity could be like in the 20s, right? Or your pH could be crazy low or crazy high because of whatever's in that water. So You can, sure, but unless you're testing it before and after you mix it with your salt, you just don't know what you're getting.
You would really need to know what your source water
it's
actually
just
is
honestly, it's just not worth it in my opinion. It's just really not. I mean, it's for the amount of,
So we agree. We can,
you can.
but probably.
Yeah, there's lots of things you can do in this hobby, but you probably shouldn't, right? So, I guess that's all I got to say there. And again, if you're on the fence about it, I mean, honestly, with the amount of time and money that you're going to spend and potentially like losing fish or something like that because you bring them from a place where maybe the alkalinity is right at an 8 and you drop them in this new water that maybe the alkalinity is 20, and that's not going to go well for them either, right? So you could have just wasted as much money as it costs to just buy an RO unit. So keep that in mind.
And it gives you room to expand everything down the road.
Yeah.
It's just all in all a good investment. So we have John Shane have a 125 gallon running an FX6, a canister filter, clean it once a week, have 4 fish, cannot control the algae. Is it wise to do a hang on back sump? Nitrate always skyrockets, no phosphate, can't hold phosphate. So hang on back sump, I'm assuming he means a refugium.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are those little, those like hang on the back refugiums,
Yeah.
or like technically a hang on the back sump. I've seen those as well, so you can have places for like your probes and things like that if you don't have one. So they make those. Yeah, I mean, it's never a bad idea to add water volume.
Never is.
And a potential sump / refugium. So you're just going to help yourself out there. As far as, where I can't even find this question so I can read on it.
Is up towards the top. Third one down.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, four fish a week, 4 fish and a 125.
It's a light load, but you can't control algae. I mean, do you have you put in a cleanup crew? Have you added some algae eaters in there? Get yourself you've got lots of room for fish, I assume, unless you've got like 4 sharks in this thing. So, maybe think about getting yourself a rabbitfish.
Urchins.
Some algae blennies. Urchins are a great.
Tuxedo
one.
urchins
Tuxedo
are
urchins are great.
Favorite things for algae.
And then just sometimes it literally is just a waiting game. I've had hair algae outbreaks. I've had cyano outbreaks, and sometimes you just have to outwait them. You just have to be patient and do the manual removal, do some biological warfare with some critters in there, but sometimes it really is just a waiting game. I don't know how long your problem's been going on, but I'd say if it's anything, if it's anything less than like the month range, just give it time. Keep working at it.
And like we told one of the other commenters earlier, double check how much you're feeding.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got 4 fish and you're just dumping in food twice a day, maybe take that down to once.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not going to disappear overnight. Like I've had tanks where I measure 0 nitrate and there's hair algae all over the place, right? But there wasn't a week ago, right? There wasn't low nitrates a week ago. They're still there. They're still growing and feeding off, but slowly they will recede and they will die off. You just have to be patient, all right? So just keep up what you're doing and you'll win.
All right, I think you are up, sir.
All right. So Shane, DJ Respina, I'm sorry if I messed that up. So I have the task of transferring from a small tank to a larger tank what I need to supplement for a larger volume of water and rock. Tank, would I need to supplement? I don't know what that.
I have to say I'm a little confused by it as well.
If you could just throw some clarification in there, we'll work on that one. So let's go on to the next one here. So Jerry Pileman, best acclimation process: dip or add a half a cup every 5 minutes. Marine Collector says add ammonia blocker to the bag to do the drip and bucket till volume triples. Some suppliers say that is too slow. So if straight up, if Marine Collectors are saying this is best practice, I would just go with that, right? Because they really are the best. And
Elliot knows what he's doing.
Elliot knows what he's doing, and he does a great job with their fish. They've got awesome fish, and they're super healthy. They've acclimated them well, and so they've kind of got this process down to a science. Is it slower and kind of annoying? Yes, but like I said, nothing good in this hobby happens really quickly. And so be in it for the long game, especially if you're buying that, showpiece fish. If you just spent, $300, $400, or $500 or $1,000, $10,000 on a fish, why go fast, right?
Take it easy.
Take it easy, go slow, and go that way. I mean, like I said, you cannot go wrong. If you're trying to follow what Marine Collectors is doing, you're probably on the right track. All right,
so it looks like Shane gave us a little bit more information on his previous question.
So adding a supplement in terms of saying adding bacteria or something like that. So it depends. If you're just taking all your stuff, and putting it into your larger tank, so one, understand that you are going to go through probably a cycle in that tank because you are going to get some stress and die off, things like that. It's not always a simple transfer.
It's never easy.
Best recommendation, honestly, if you can have both running for a short period of time, I would do that. But you can take all the live rock and everything that's in your current aquarium and put in that larger tank, to start it out, or at least some of it, especially the rock. That's going to speed up your process.
That would exactly be my advice.
Yeah.
Take some of the rock, get some of that biomass into the new system. Yep. Let it start populating, and then move the rest over.
Yeah, check it. Make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. That you're not getting any ammonia spiking after a couple weeks or so. And if everything's going well, then I'd probably say you can start transferring things over. Never hurts to add some bacteria too. You can always add some like microbacter or something like that. Dr. Tim's, whatever you want to do. That's not going to hurt anything, so you can always do that. But no, as long as you've got a nice bio load in your current tank, use that. You might as well.
All right, now we got Steve V's. Any skimmer suggestions for a 25-gallon with no sump, maybe a hang-on back?
You'd have to answer this one.
The new CJ Shark skimmers.
There you go.
That would be what I would recommend. Of course, that's assuming you've got, I can't remember the exact dimensions of the smallest variety, but it does go up to, I believe, 25 gallons.
Great.
So it's something new that came out from them, I believe, last fall, maybe over the winter. Fantastic skimmer. Got Thomas doing a video on it, actually. He delivered it to me just yesterday.
Nice.
Looks great.
Perfect.
I would definitely go that route.
Perfect. Okay. There we go. Yeah, the last hang on the back skimmer I used was a long time ago, and they don't even make them anymore, so I'd be a bad one to answer.
Yeah, I think my last one was an eShop PSK 75. It came with a JBJ NanoCube.
Yeah, I always forget.
I flooded my floors.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know how skimmers worked, and I skimmed too wet and just out the top on the floor.
I always forget the name of the one I had. It was like a square, clear one, great big old thing.
Maybe it was a Reef Octopus one?
No, it was before those came out. So it way back in the day.
I can't make those jokes. I have more gray hair than you.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we'll just assume you're older as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, right. So let's see here. Blue Whistler again. Thinking of adding a refugium in my AIO in the second chamber. Do you need to remove mechanical filtration ahead of the refugium? Mechanical filtration? No.
No, I wouldn't.
No. Nope. In fact, it's probably good because if you're going to have like Cato or something in there, if you don't have mechanical filtration for it, you're just going to collect detritus and all kinds of nasty stuff in that. So,
and that is like, to me, one of the biggest drawbacks of having an AIO is they're a little bit harder to get to. Like, you open up your cabinet on a traditional sump system, everything's right there.
Everything's right there.
But since it's behind,
yeah,
oh man, it just kind of gets lost back there. And
yeah, well, we talked about that too. Like those,
man.
We talked about it earlier. The sponge filters. How some, in some AIOs, those things are tucked down the bottom, and they're just nutrient traps if you're not going in there and like clean them out regularly. So
they work well, but man,
AIOs are great.
Don't forget about them.
Yeah, don't just ignore them. Ricardo Vargas, I bought a used Apex system, set it up, and it's working great. Good. I've been trying to search online on how to remove alarms that I'm not using. Have any advice on this?
Whew, it has been a while since I've had to go through all of that. And I do not have an answer ready off the top of my head. Right. I would actually have to log into Fusion and double check my thinking. So I don't want to give you any bad advice there.
Yeah, fair enough.
If this was like, if this is an Apex that already has a lot of these set up, I mean, you could try doing just a full factory reset, I suppose.
Sure.
And just starting from scratch.
Sure.
But there are plenty of of other forums out there that would be able to easily point you in the right direction. I just
Sure.
don't want to point you in the
Honestly,
wrong place.
what I would recommend for you is just to call our customer service. Call BRS customer service,
Yes.
and they'll be able to guide you through it super quick, right? Because they'll be able to sit there, have you talk to them, tell them exactly what you're seeing, and they'll guide you through the process, and quick and painless. So.
All right, we got Boosted One Lancer. New to the hobby, what's the best all-in-one tank that's a go-to usually? I think that varies.
It does.
If you're wanting to go for a really high-end one, I would definitely take a look at Red Sea Max Nanos. Mostly because they come with literally everything you would possibly need. Comes with the light, comes with the skimmer, comes with a little gravity-fed ATO, comes with a nice media tower, so if you want to run carbon or GFO. And it's a nice small form factor that you can put literally anywhere in your house. If you're wanting to go a little bit cheaper, I would probably go Innovative Marine with 20 Nuvo.
Sure.
I've had multiples of those throughout my time in the hobby. And still one of my favorite tanks.
Yeah.
You're a little bit limited in the back as far as the back chamber goes, so you can't fit a whole lot of equipment in. So you're a little limited there, but all in all, it's a fantastic system.
Yeah, most of them are pretty good, and a lot of the smaller ones I've had good luck with the ones I've used. I'm not a big all-in-one guy, but you know, I know I have like a little Hello Reef and stuff at home, and it works great too. So.
You know what? I've got one more I would actually recommend. It's a JBJ RF25. It's not a very popular one. Comes with the stand, and unlike Innovative Marine, it actually has a very deep AIO compartment in the back, so you can fit a lot of stuff back there.
Yeah, which is good because it allows for future upgrades and things like that. There you go.
There you go.
All right. Probably.
What do you say? Do one more?
Yeah, I say we'll get one more question in here. Okay, let's see here. All right, why is there both ideas out there, and which is best? Frag corals never gives us better, stronger strain, only weaker genetics in the long run. True or false? Explain, please, your theory, and or is... I'm missing part of that question.
Yeah, it looks like got cut off. We can definitely start without that, though. I would say that fragged corals would probably give us a stronger overall coral because we are dialing in the exact parameters that it's growing in. It's staying consistent. Because like in the ocean, I always like to think of it as things are constantly fluctuating. Things are getting pulled from one area into another. Whereas, you know, in our systems, if we're taking care of them correctly and we're dosing things correctly, it's kind of a steady state environment that they are in.
Yeah, I mean, the ocean, water chemistry isn't going to change much in the ocean, at all, but, for, even, in a pretty wide span. So, but I don't know, so frag corals never gives us better, stronger strain, only weaker genetics in the long run. So when you frag a coral, you're cloning it, right? Basically, you're creating a clone of that mother colony, right? You're propagating it. And same with plants. If you continue to clone and propagate off of that mother colony, the genetics should continue to be the same. Now, that doesn't say that you're not going to get mutations, things like that occurring over time. But typically, if we've got a coral, one of the nice things about it, if we have a really successful coral that's very robust, and maybe it's just a specimen or a hybrid, again, just like with plants, we get these cultivars that are more hardy or maybe have different characteristics than, the parent, the genetic parent, because of genetic properties and principles and how they work. And if we continue to frag that, then yeah, we're going to maintain that genetic line, that robustness of those genetics. But the genetics, again, other than just mutations that occur from outside stimuli, the genetics aren't going to change if you're just cloning and fragging. So you're just continuing to frag and propagate just like that. Like again, if you're creating a genetic clone of a plant, all of those clones are exactly the same. Now, There may be variations in each individual just because of the environment that it's growing in, but for the most part, they're going to be the same, right? And genetically, there's not going to be anything different between them.
It sounds like we have a summer project.
We might have. So, and I'd be interested if you could. Joystick 656 is the one that asked that. So if you could throw in some, if you could comment on where you're seeing some of these theories, I'd be interested in reading up on them because I'm not familiar with what you're talking about there. But
yeah, take a look.
Yeah, I'd like to get some more information. It sounds like it could be a little summer test for us. So
I like it.
All right. Well, everybody, I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to cut it off. But thanks again for joining us today, guys. It's been great. We've had a lot of fun, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Have a good one.